Will the clerk please call calendar number 130?
Calendar 130 on page 5 of the calendar. Federal Report of Joint Standing Committee on General Law, House Bill 5614, an act concerning e-books and libraries.
Representative Byram.
Good afternoon, Madam Speaker. I move for acceptance of the Joint Committee's favorable report and passage of the bill.
The question before the Chamber is acceptance of the Joint Committee's favorable report and passage of the bill. Representative Byram, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This bill directs the Commissioner of Consumer Protection to undertake a study on the availability of electronic books to Connecticut State Public Libraries. This study would be in consultation with the state librarian. And, Madam Speaker, the clerk has an amendment, LCO 6850. I would ask that the clerk please call that amendment and that I be granted leave of the Chamber to summarize.
Will the clerk please call LCO 6850, which will be designated House Amendment Schedule A.
House Amendment Schedule A, or LCO 6850, introduced by Representative Byram et al.
The representative seeks leave of the Chamber to summarize the amendment. Is there objection to summarization? Is there objection? Hearing none, Representative Byram, you may proceed with summarization.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As I said before, this bill, as amended, asks the Consumer Protection Commissioner to undertake a study in consultation with the state librarian and the Attorney General to determine ways to make e-books more available to our Connecticut State Public Libraries. This study would also include consultation with other third parties such as authors, publishers, electronic distributors, and the like. This study would determine what problems exist in making e-books available to our libraries and also recommendations on the availability of these e-books to our libraries. The study would be reported back by February 1st, 2014. There is no fiscal impact in connection with this bill, and I would move its passage.
The question before the Chamber is adoption of House Amendment Schedule A. Will you remark on the amendment? Representative Carter of the 42nd. Of the 2nd.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. A question through you to the proponent of the amendment.
Please frame your question, sir.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Speaker. As we drafted this amendment, it's my understanding that in the survey, we are not including other states because, of course, we're trying to keep the cost down. But I just want to make sure that it is the intention that as we look at this study, we will study what is going on in other states. And this amendment in no way precludes that from happening. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Byron, will you respond, sir?
Through you, Madam Speaker. While we're not doing a formal survey of other states, obviously the input from the publishers and the distributors will involve suggestions and practices engaged in other states, which will become part of the information to allow DCP to make recommendations. So indirectly, I believe that there will be a review of what other states are doing.
Representative Carter.
Thank you very much, and I thank the gentleman for his answers. As we progress looking at this e-books concept, I think that we've come together in a really bipartisan fashion to come up with this study and make sure that we look at this issue thoroughly. In fact, this has been one of the more controversial issues I think that we've had in general law this year. So I would like to give my thanks and appreciation to the good chair of the General Law Committee for his help as we came together on this study idea. And I also would urge my colleagues to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Representative Albers of the 50th.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If I may, question to the proponent of the amendment.
Please frame your question, sir.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. There's lots of references in the amendment that's before us to public libraries, and in my district, we have a number of small libraries that are only open part-time. They might be open, 2 days a week or 3 days a week. And I just wanted to ensure that it was the intention of the framer of the amendment, the proponent of the amendment, to make sure that we included these libraries in the scope of this proposal. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Byron, will you respond, sir?
Through you, Madam Speaker, it is our intention to include those libraries.
Representative Alberts.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the proponent. And I think this is a good amendment and a good bill.
Representative Sawyer of the 55th.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. A question through you to the proponent of the amendment.
Please frame your question, madam.
Thank you. When I have been following this bill since the inception and have been a great supporter of it, my question is, has there been a discussion about schools, school libraries, and the inclusion and the effect perhaps during this task force if the schools would be, their libraries would be included in the discussions? Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Barron, will you respond, sir?
Through you, Madam Speaker. That is a good point. There has not been specific reference to school libraries, but at least I consider school libraries public libraries. They're part of our educational system, which is a public school system. And I think if we can resolve this problem for our normally considered public libraries, it will spill over and be applicable to the school libraries as well.
Representative Sawyer.
Thank
you.
You
have the floor, madam.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And through you, in this discussion, what I did notice is it talks about in consultation with the state librarian and the Attorney General. I presume that both have agreed to participate. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Barham, excuse me.
Through you, Madam Speaker. Our discussions have been with DCP, and it's my understanding that DCP did inquire both departments or agencies, and there is agreement to participate.
Representative Sawyer, you have the floor, madam.
Thank you. And for legislative intent, would you expect that perhaps the Attorney General would be the Attorney General or his designee? Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Barron.
Through you, Madam Speaker, I believe it would probably be a designee.
Representative Sawyer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate the clarification, Mr. Chairman.
Will you remark further on the amendment? Will you remark further on the amendment before us? If not, let me try your minds. All those, please signify by saying aye. All those in favor. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. Will you remark further on the bill as amended? Will you remark further on the bill as amended? Representative O'Neill of the 69th.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. Since the amendment has been adopted and has now become the bill, as I understood it, it was a strike-all amendment. I just have a couple of questions to try to understand or perhaps provide some legislative guidance to the folks doing the study. Is the expectation that the study is going to provide, in effect, a clear-cut set of guidelines for some type of requirement that publishers have to make e-books available to libraries? Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Barron.
Through you, Madam Speaker. I expect that the study will look at how e-books are distributed and some of the legal issues involved in that distribution, legal issues that may involve Commerce Clause, copyright laws, freedom of speech, etc., and that once those are reviewed, a set of recommendations will be made. Those recommendations will be reported back to the General Law Committee in February of next year, and then based on those recommendations, I would anticipate some further legislation would be developed that would go through the public hearing process to try and make these books more available to our libraries.
Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Because the underlying bill seemed to be a requirement that the books had to be made available, as I understood the underlying bill. This is actually a subject that's become quite controversial, not just in the United States, but all around the world, with book publishers. And I'm hopefully going to be allowed to make a brief quotation from a copy of The Economist magazine from a couple of months ago. In the publisher's eyes, librarians are sitting close to Satan, declared Phil Bradley, president of the Chartered Institute of Library Information Professionals. The publishers worry a great deal. And I think hopefully this will be a factor to be considered by this study. And I'm not sure that the amount of time that's been allocated for the study is adequate to really address this issue fully. But the book publishers are afraid that if somebody gets a library card, they are never going to buy another book again. And unlike the situation where you borrow a book, have to go to a library, physically pick up the book, physically take it home, physically bring it back when it's due, e-lending is so much more convenient that they're afraid that a lot of people are never going to go to the trouble of buying another book. And while that may make the libraries happy to have access to the books, there's a longer-term consequence, which I hope that the study will bear in mind, and that is if the book publishers can't make any money selling books, they're not going to publish the books. I understand that there's an alternative route to publication. People go directly to somebody like Amazon.com or something and publish, self-publish their books. So maybe books will get published that way. But the book publishing industry is, as far as I understand it, deeply concerned about the potential for losses because of e-lending going on through libraries. And some of the publishers simply refuse to even make electronic versions available to libraries. I think the study is a good idea, and I believe that this is a very complicated issue and involves a lot more than just some sort of sense that the libraries are not being treated fairly, and we want to force someone to do something. But it has a lot of longer-term consequences and ramifications that I think need to be part of this study, and I hope they will be. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Sear of the 47th.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for bringing this bill up. I'm a freshman, as you all know, and when I came in and they said, what bills, might you want to sponsor or ideas come up with, my goal was what can help as many citizens of our state without having a fiscal impact negatively on our citizens. And potentially every man, woman, and child does use a library and has access to a library. There is an inequity that exists at this moment in terms of the e-books being available to libraries. And it's all over the map. Some publishers provide them to libraries at a fair price and it's working fine. Some don't provide them at all. Some provide them at a very high price level. And I did want to clarify that there is technology in place right now whereby if you go to a library and you want an e-book, it's not an e-book you buy, it's a license you get. It's all set up so you load that onto your device. It's one license, one user, and after, let's say, 2 weeks, it goes away. Nobody can copy it. Nobody can pirate it. The only way you could copy it is to take your device and put it on a photocopier and kind of do it one page at a time. So the technology for fairness exists. Some publishers are offering those, and it's working out fine to the libraries. Others, it's all over the map. And the frustration for the librarians is they're used to providing their patrons with what they ask for and what they expect. If they want a book, if the book isn't there, Connecticut's a great state. They can get a book from any of the other libraries in the state. We have a great system of providing those products to their patrons. Very frustrating when people come in and say, I'd like an e-book, and there's a very limited amount available, and there's no predictability of how that's going to change. So the goal of the bill was to end discrimination, and the line was to the publishers, not adversarial, but if you sell it, we want to buy it. If you sell it, we want to buy it. And I applaud the efforts of everybody involved. I applaud the General Law Committee. I applaud this was indeed a great exercise in bipartisanship. I think everybody feels like they had part of this process involved. And I honor it. I mean, I would be very happy if we had a bill that made sure that those e-books were available once the bill was passed. But there's so many implications to this that a study of all the experts involved with a due date next February 1st and specific parameters on what we're looking at are in place. And it gives me great pleasure to be here considering this bill. And I'm told that the industry is already changing, that Connecticut is a leader in this. There's people, I've gotten emails from around the country, and they're watching Connecticut. the librarians, and what's going on here. So in a way, we're kind of paving the way. We're a state of leadership, and I hope out of this, this situation, which is not adversarial, it's not publisher against libraries. We're all working together to deliver a product to our patrons, that this study is productive, and we end up a year from now in a situation where it's working for the publishers, it's working for the libraries, and again, I just want to thank everybody who was involved in this process. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Will you remark further on the bill as amended? Will you remark further on the bill as amended? Representative Case of the 63rd.
Good to see you up there, Madam Speaker. I just want to rise in support of this bill. I come from a town who has changed their educational system for their juniors and seniors over to the e-pads, and they've made agreements with the book companies and stuff to put everything online. And it's made it very interesting being a parent of 3 that you can come home and do your homework and read your books and do everything online. But it's also shown the 21st century of where we're going to. But I have one son who says, I still want to go to the library and I want to read a book. So I think leaving these options of the libraries there, but having the stuff online and going forward, I wish we didn't have to do a study on it, that we could just move forward and go with it and be the state at the forefront. But I will be supporting the bill. I think it's a great thing. And as we all know, we're moving forward with our iPhones, our iPads, and our iBooks. So I'm in support. Thank you.
Will you remark further on the bill as amended? Will you remark further on the bill as amended? If not, will staff and guests please come to the well of the House? Will the members take your seats? The machine will be open.
The House of Representatives is voting by roll. The House of Representatives is voting by roll. Will members please return to the chamber immediately?
Have all members voted? Have all members voted? Will the members please check the board to determine if your vote is properly cast? If all members have voted, the machine will be locked and the clerk will take a tally. Will the clerk please announce the tally?
Bill number 5614, as amended by House A. Total number voting 143, necessary for passage 72. Those voting yea 143, those voting nay 0. Absent not voting 7.
The bill as amended is passed.